Now, to talk us through all of this is Jack Bobo, Director of the Food Systems Institute at the University of Nottingham. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. I know it's very early in the morning, so hopefully you've had a couple of glasses of tea already.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's start talking about our coffee prices first. Wholesale prices have been going up for quite a while now and reaching new highs. How much higher can this go, especially if Vietnam and Indonesia are as bad off as indications point to?
Yeah, I don't think that we have any clear idea of when the weather issues are going to moderate and that supply is going to rebound. So that's a clear problem, and it's compounded by global shipping challenges as well.
Right. Talk more about that, the prices and why they perhaps are not expected to come down anytime soon, and a little more about the factors that could help prices at least stabilize, if not trickle down a bit.
Yeah, well, the high prices, it really comes down to weather. There's been droughts, had a dramatic impact on yields, and so that's going to take a while for it to work through the system. But in addition to that, there's this issue of just global trade. And right now, the two ways of getting some of this supply into the Atlantic region are either going through the Red Sea, where there's security issues that are causing a backlog of ships that are just backing up and not able to get through. And then they've also had problems with the amount of water in the Panama Canal. And so trying to come in from both directions has been a challenge and could continue for some time.
Wow, that's some good insight. Yeah. Look, people get addicted to coffee. They have to have it before they start their day. So the rise in coffee prices is great for exporters, but consumers are obviously complaining about having to pay a bit more. Do you think that there's a ceiling that the average consumer in North America may be willing to pay? And if so, how could that affect all these retail coffee shops that are on every single corner of the world?
Yeah, so right now, we have two types of coffee. You have the Robusta and you have the Arabica, and the impact is mostly for the Robusta, which tends to be sort of a stronger, more bitter coffee. And so it depends a little bit on the kind of coffee that you like, because that's the kind of coffee that's being produced in Vietnam and Indonesia. Whereas the coffee, the Arabica that's coming from Brazil and Colombia and countries like that, is a milder coffee. And so it's not going to be impacted quite as much. And, as to the extent that there are good harvests, the prices could even be relatively stable as far as the beans themselves. Yeah. However, that's not the only challenge that we face when we go in to buy our cup of coffee. We're coming off of a long inflationary period, so it's not just the coffee beans that might go up. You've also got your milk or your almond milk, your soy milk, your oat milk. All of those are seeing price increases. Labor costs are up as well. And so, the cost of the coffee is important, but it's not the only factor that's actually leading to rising prices at the counter.
Okay, so what are retailers doing to hedge against these coffee price rises? Big chains like Starbucks, Costa Coffee in the UK, do they have an advantage right now over the mom and pop?
Well, absolutely, because they have deeper pockets. They have the ability to weather some of these pressures, especially if they believe that it's a temporary issue. If they think that it's going to moderate over the next couple of months, they're going to be very reluctant to raise those prices. And since inflation has come under control in many ways, they're also going to be reluctant to continue to raise prices because consumers aren't expecting those price increases the way they were 6 months ago. And so they have a little bit more wiggle room in order to maintain those prices. And so unless it continues for months, we may not see quite as much at those shops. But for the small mom and pops, they have much thinner margins, and they're much more susceptible to an increase in price. They don't have the same purchasing power. They also don't have the same long-term contracts that might be in place.
You talked about inflation, wages, things that affect just about everything. So let's talk about tea prices, because they haven't gone up. But there are these other pressures out there in stores that are selling tea, the ingredients, the packaging, the rent, the wages. So what are smaller retail outlets doing in tea to counter these increases?
Yeah, so some of them are trying to be creative, because many of the smaller shops, they have customers that are coming in, and you sort of have two types of customers. You have those that are long-term tea drinkers, and then you have those that are sort of more coming to it maybe for the first time. And so what some of the shops are doing is they're taking their more premium teas, the oolongs, the Earl Greys, and others, and they may be allowing those prices to rise because they know that the people that choose to buy those are a little less price sensitive. Whereas those who are coming in sort of for their first cup of tea, they're pretty reluctant to raise that price because they don't want to scare the person out the door the very first time they come to try their product.
Interesting. Okay, one final question, and then we'll let you call it a night. Overall outlook for tea and coffee markets?
Well, I think tea is looking better. I think that we'll deal with some of the supply chain issues, going forward. I think the jury is still out when it comes to coffee. We don't quite know what the environmental impact is going to be, and we also have that El Nino that's coming along and may have a further impact on Brazil, and then all bets are off.